Ben, thank you so much, and thank you to all of you for making this a priority today, for coming out. What we're going to show you is an update on the work that's been going on behind the scenes to sort of pull the curtains back. What we're going to show you are the plans that we have so far. What we're not going to show you is the absolute definitive last word, because we've got a lot of work to do before we start doing that. So please, as you hear this presentation, think about the work and the prayer that's gone into it, and know that we're at this place where there's going to be more work and more prayer to get these things just right. A quick background on the project. Ben, you love my curtains. I save them for big moments like this. A quick update on how we got to where we are. This timeline is actually a little bit deceiving because literally on my very first day in Memphis, when I was interviewing with the search committee, someone said to me, "We have got to do something about that gym, and you need to tell us now if you're not willing to do it." So literally from my first day at Holy Communion, we have been talking about a gym. Those plans got a little bit more serious in the last year or so. In September of last year, we did a feasibility study with St. Mary's to get a sense of what resources might be out there. Some of you participated in those surveys and presentations. In January, we engaged a master planning process to not just say, okay, well, we need to have a gym and a cafeteria for the school, we need a gym on our side, but let's take the zoom out look and say, what do we need Church of the Holy Communion to be 65 years from now? We started that process with a really dedicated group of folks who met almost weekly with the architects moving through it. We had focus groups. We had about 50 parishioners from different groups within the congregation sit down with the architects, give them feedback and information. In June of 2016, the architects returned their plans to the vestry, who endorsed them and approved them. And then in August of this year, we began our capital campaign behind the scenes. We are represented in the capital campaign by CCS Fundraising, which is an international firm that does many church campaigns every year and many school campaigns every year. And the reason that we went with them is because we knew we needed to have a campaign just for the church, but that at the same time there was going to be a separate campaign just for the school, and we needed to make sure that we weren't going to be working opposite each other. So this firm has been offering counsel on both sides for two separate but coordinated campaigns, and we have with us Meg O'Halloran, who is our in-house resident counsel from CCS. Would you wave, please, Meg? This is Meg, who has moved down from Baltimore to Memphis for a period of 7 months to run this campaign for us, and I will just tell you, if Meg hadn't been here driving the bus, we would not be where we are. Church campaigns, though, are pretty short. We're proposing to do this very rapidly and move into our design and building phase, so the next part of the timeline comes in just a couple of months, January 17, when we declare campaign success. Before I pull back the curtain all the way, I want to take just a moment to highlight the parishioners who've been in leadership on this effort of the campaign so far. As you see their names roll by, be grateful, but also just think about how many people it is who have been involved in this process. None at all. That's it. What you're seeing are men and women. What you're seeing are newcomers and oldcomers. What you're seeing are people who are older and people who are younger. What we're seeing is a cross-generational effort at Holy Communion. This is not the project of those who've been here a long time or those who've been here a short time. This is the project of all of us. Under the leadership of our campaign chairs, Ben Adams, Bill and Carmen Vaughn, and our vice chair, Kava Sitnik. But then, on top of all that, have been scores and scores of volunteers who've been going out to make things happen. So we have a lot of people to whom to be grateful, and if we could just have a brief round of applause to recognize all that effort, I would be grateful. We've also gotten a few words in from some of our friends. The bishop sends his greetings this morning. He wasn't able to be with us, but refers to this as a new wineskins moment, that we've got new wine here. We've got a new thing God is doing and making a new thing, and we need a new space in which to hold that. We begin, however, with the Wellness Center. That's the project that's sort of been on everybody's mind for the last 10 or 12 years. The Wellness Center project is a complicated one because both St. Mary's and Holy Communion have an active need for a wellness center/gymnasium. On the Holy Communion side, we have 950 children a year. 950 children a year coming through our sports and recreation programs. It's one of our best kept secrets, and I'm trying to tell the story so that it's no longer a well kept secret. 950 kids a year, 25 basketball teams with Holy Communion jerseys on them, using our gymnasium and other gyms in the area to practice and to compete. Why do we do athletics at Holy Communion? The care of our bodies matters, but so does good sportsmanship and values. What we're teaching is how we live as Christians in the world. That's important to us. We also have 10 adult wellness classes a week in yoga, Pilates, Tai Chi, and Zumba. Some of you may participate in those classes, and you may know that you're often meeting in a conference room, or in the stage area on the back of the gym, or in the cafeteria floor downstairs, or here in Cheney Parish Hall. Our program has grown to exceed the size that the facility can manage. On the school side, they need to have a dining hall that's above ground with natural light, and all of this must be accomplished. It's nice, luxury items and all. All of this must be accomplished with no loss of parking. That is a tall, tall order. And this is what the architects have given us. All of these images, by the way, are on these boards that I'll turn around at the end and you can see and we'll have out for several weeks. This is what we've got. The large gymnasium space here has to be a certain size in order to accommodate the basketball that needs to take place in it. A small extension up to the north where Holy Communion spaces will be, and I'll show you the floor plan in a moment. And then a lower level, which you can see gently in here, but doesn't appear over here, where St. Mary's will have their dining spaces, cooking spaces, and their space for conditioning their athletes and providing physical education to their girls. It's a tight and efficient building. It is not the Taj Mahal of athletics. And when you take the roof off, that was a little joke, it's okay to laugh, Taj Mahal of athletics. When you take the roof off, it looks like this. On the upper level, which is ground level coming in from the parking lot, you've got a large shared gym, which can allow for 2 simultaneous practices for recreation league sports, or one varsity game going the long way. And then church exercise rooms dedicated to our use up at the top, where all of our adult classes can be accommodated. Down below, in a floor that can be secured for the school, we've got dining and cooking at the bottom, and then we've got exercise and cardio training at the top. It does not provide, it's not just growing for the sake of growing. This is a building that we will fully occupy on the first day that we have it. Now, if you look closely, though, you'll notice that this building is larger than our current gymnasium. So currently, and I've learned a great deal about basketball lately, our gym is 74 feet long. The standard for recreation league play is 84 feet long, and the standard for varsity competition is 94 feet long. So we're 20 feet short on a varsity level high school game. The only way to get 20 more feet of basketball court is to put in 20 more feet of building around it. And that is going to cost parking. And that's where we ran into trouble. But the architects have come up with a really creative solution, and it's on the front of the church, on the north exposure. Now, we had said right off, we are not paving over our front lawn. Don't even talk about it. That's our thing. So don't worry, anybody who's anxious about what the next slide will hold. They've given us this solution up in the top area near where we have Picnic Church right now. What they discovered was that that is largely unused space, and that by further developing the roadway that comes up in front of the church, and also by putting in a retaining wall next to where the playground is right now, we can get nose-in parking right up next to the Buckman Center, that's at the top right of this image, and we can get a new parking lot right here, sort of where Picnic Church is. And then the new front door of the church will be in the middle here, and I'll talk to you about that in a second. So for the first time, we'll have parking at 4645 Walnut Grove, where you can then enter the church. So our address will actually start to make sense, rather than knowing that you need to circle around to Little Perkins, go around the corner in the back, and come up through the back door. The image on the left is our current condition, so you can see where they've made adjustments and where they haven't. But one of the things that I love most about it is that we've increased the parking It's about net zero on the whole with the gym, but we've increased the parking in the front at the same time that we've put more green space down on the road. So it will look as though there's more grass, more green space, more landscaping, while at the same time we're increasing parking. So what of this? The first word that comes to many people's minds when I get to this point in the presentation starts with an E and ends with expensive. And indeed it is an expensive project. What we're talking about here is the demolition of the current Barth facility, which is a gym and an academic building that used to be the middle school. We're talking about the regrading and shaping of parking lots on the north and south of the church. We're talking about building a new wellness center that will serve both the church and the school. And then we're talking about regrading the track and field in the back, which will certainly need to be used for construction preparation and which also is having some serious drainage issues that need to be addressed as well. All of that together, we're estimating to cost about $19 million. But in conversations with St. Mary's, we quickly came to a place that it was not the right approach for us to simply start saying, well, you'll use X percentage of the square footage, X percentage of the time. I could spend the rest of my career doing algebra, and we still wouldn't be able to make it all work. So we started from a different perspective of saying to each other, our colleagues at the school, what resources do all of us have? The school had been told that they have a greater capacity to raise capital funds, particularly for a gym project, than we do. We own the land on this campus and are not willing to sell it, but would be able to make use of it. They wanted to go right now on a capital campaign. We've been waiting a while. What we realized is that if we all brought to the table what we had, in their case some more money, in our case some more land, in our case some more time, in their case some shared use issues that they'd wanted to put on the table, we could figure out a deal that made it all work. And we have. And this is the arrangement. Of the $19 million budget that's been set for all of the work that you've seen so far, St. Mary's has agreed to pay 18, and the church has agreed to pay 1. This is a game-changing. This is a game-changing moment when we made this happen. Let it soak in. Put a slide there for a reason. It's obviously more complicated than this. There's a 3-page agreement that goes along with it, all of the different details having been worked out. But as I said, we each brought what we had. We each gave something, and we each got something. And we've come up with a solution that is going to enable Church of the Holy Communion to do so much more than we had ever dreamed possible. Because every conversation we've had about the renovations of our church space and our ministry space have been tied up in the fact that we own that gym. And it's in very rough shape, and it's needing a lot of maintenance. And that has to be tackled first. But under this agreement, everything beyond the first $1 million that Holy Communion raises is completely within the vestry's control. No longer are we having to go back and forth prioritizing our needs against the school's needs, having negotiations between the trustees and the vestry. Everything beyond that first $1 million is vestry funds. So what shall we do? We started our conversation, another word from one of our friends. Dan Matthews, former associate rector of this parish, who went on to be the rector of Trinity Wall Street, says to us, I can only imagine what extraordinary programs will emerge from a brand new facility just like they did for us 50 years ago. If you've ever talked to Dan or Fred Beeson or any of the guys who were around in that era, the gym was a center for ministry and activity when it was new. And when we do these facilities as we've described, Dan thinks that we're going to enter another Renaissance period just as great as our last. He and Diener, by the way, have specifically asked me to convey their regards to everybody with whom they're still connected here. On the church side, though, what do we need? What we told the architects was, okay, we need a clear front door. We've been hearing that clearly from the welcome committees. How do we get into the church, and what do we do with you once you get here? How do we direct you easily through the building? How do we draw all of our spaces together? If you think about it, most of us know how to sneak in the side door. I come in the back because that's where my parking space is. But if you were new, that would be hard, figuring out where to go. And even the best efforts from our hospitality team are still challenged by the fact that once you get to them, the children's space is all the way down the hall and down the stairs, unless you're looking for the nursery, in which case it's on the same level, unless you're looking for the chapel, in which case it's behind you up the stairs and down the hall. That's a challenge that we're seeking to deal with. We also want room for expansion in youth and children's ministry. We're seeing both of those programs grow in numbers, and we think that's our growing edge. That's what makes us different from so many of the other churches, is that we have a robust youth and children's ministry program. We want spaces that are designed for that, not just made to work, and that are put together in one place. We also want to continue what I'm calling our ministry of meetings, which is our role as a community center. We have more than 30 outside groups that use our space for their meetings. They include the Women's Exchange, the Junior League, the Le Bonheur Club. The Down Syndrome Association was here and gave us a plaque not long ago. This space is desirable space for our community, and we want to invest in that ministry of having people come into our space and consider it the hub of East Memphis. So we want to invest in that, not step back for it. And then I sort of put on the list, as long as we're talking about all of that, it sure would be nice if the staff could all work in one spot. Right now, we're spread out over 3 corridors on 2 levels, which just makes it a little bit difficult to collaborate with one another. So put that on the list. We're not doing a capital campaign for an office suite, but we are doing a capital campaign, and at the same time can address that issue, freeing up the prime Sunday morning real estate where the Monday to Friday offices currently are. The space right off the steps of the church should not be a Monday to Friday office. It should be a classroom or a meeting room or a place where people can gather. So we zoomed out, we took a look at that, and we had another game-changing moment when the architects came to me and said, "You know, Sandy, we've been crunching the numbers, and you have an awful lot of unused space and underused space in your building. I am the only rector that I know, and I know a lot of them, who has a fully functional science laboratory in his church." Perhaps not the ideal use of that space for our ministry. Most of the 3rd floor of Greenwood is used once or twice a week at best. Once St. Mary's moves out of the cafeteria on the lower level of Blaisdell, that space will just be open. Much of the space that we're using for children's ministry is oversized for its purpose because the rooms were there and we moved into them. But we're going to try and make those more efficient. And the architect said, "You know, we don't think that you need to put a new wing on the building. We think you just need to make better use of the space that you already have." And that was another game changer, because that's not growing for growing's sake. That's stewardship of what we already have. That's making good on the investments that those previous generations made, as Ben had talked about, and setting them up for a new reality. So this is what we have. And again, these images will be a little bit hard to see on the poster or on the screen, but these posters will be here so that you can study them in more depth as you'd like. 2nd floor, which is main level. This is the level that we're on right now. Currently, my office is somewhere up in here where it says meeting, okay? This is Cheney Parish Hall where we are now, and the nave is up here. Got yourselves oriented? Currently, can you see this, the laser? Okay. Currently, the south wall of Blaisdell is right here, right there. And this little black box is the only expansion of the building that is proposed, and you'll see why in just a moment. What they're proposing to do is build that out into a large lobby, blow out all of the offices that are in there currently, which is where Elizabeth's space is, and Hester's space, and Randy's space, and Jane's space. Clear all that out so that we can have a large receiving area. Take the rooms that are mine and Mary Beth's right now, make that into a meeting room right on that main lobby. Take the space that is Ben and Teresa's now and make that another meeting room right off the main lobby. But what you'll see is a pass-through here, a big prominent door that you can enter from the south, if you know the big parking lot and how to sort of find your way in, and then another door to the north, which feeds right off of that new parking lot up there. So that if you're a guest or if you have church business to conduct, you come up to 4645 Walnut Grove, you turn in off Walnut Grove, you park near Walnut Grove, and you walk in the front door. And speaking as the guy whose office is right next to the door that's already there, I can tell you that at least 3 times a week, people are already finding their way to that door, thinking that it is the front door, and knocking on my window. You might get that too, Ben. Knocking on the window to say, "Won't you come around and unlock the door for us?" And I'm like, well, yes, that's fine. So I can tell you that that is already attracting people as a front door. Here's where it gets really interesting, though. We're taking the Greenwood, 2nd floor of Greenwood, and making that a children's suite. So no longer will children's classrooms be on 1st floor Greenwood, children's chapel on 3rd floor Cheney, and the nursery on 2nd floor Greenwood. All of those spaces will be condensed into one spot We'll have 3 large children's classrooms, the children's chapel, and a large nursery. All of those spaces designed for children rather than just made to work. All of those spaces improved and enhanced, upgraded in all the ways they need to be upgraded and enhanced. It also has the advantage of taking us away from the exterior door, which is currently in the children's suite, which we have to monitor and keep secure in order to make sure that the kids are safe. So it gives us that advantage. One of the side advantages is this large room here is slated to be the children's chapel, which puts its door directly across from the west door of the church. So when you leave Big Church, as we used to call it in my last city, you'll be looking across to Little Church, drawing those 2 spaces together. You'll also notice that the big stairs have moved. This is a handicap ramp, giving us more accessibility into the nave from the west door, and the main stairs come down here into the expansion, which means that when you enter, you can then hit the stairs going down or the stairs going up right off the lobby. And if you were to take those stairs down, you'll find yourselves in the youth suite. Just like we did for children, we're going to blow out the interior walls on the first floor of Greenwood, upgrade that space, and provide for a large senior high youth room, a large junior high youth room with breakout spaces off of them. We put several of the teenagers with the architects. They said, "What do you want?" They said, "This is what we want. Separate space for senior and junior high, places to have our breakout meetings." And that's what's shown here. Also, with a small refit of the kitchen that's already there, which St. Mary's is using as a warming kitchen for their lunch catering service, we can have a proper kitchen near the EYC area where they have EYC dinner, rather than having to move the kids to the food or the food to the kids. Also, with a little repurposing of the Blaisdell cafeteria, we can make that a sort of bounce-around room, a place where visiting youth groups could stay overnight if they were in town, a place where we could do high school or junior high school lock-ins. All of these pieces can happen in a suite designed for youth with them in mind, 1 staircase off of the main lobby. Had you taken those stairs up, you'd be on the 3rd floor, and this is where it gets very creative. We have another suite on the 3rd floor of Greenwood, which is where the staff will go. For those of you who don't know, when you count in part and full-time staff, Church of the Holy Communion has 22 employees. There are a lot of us here keeping this all going. That includes our maintenance friends, that includes support staff, it includes program staff and clergy. But we are running a large small business here, and this will give us a place, an efficient place to be. But then this is where it gets real interesting. So these are those stairs that come off the main lobby, and currently this is the south wall of Blaisdell, and the choir room is here, right? So when you go upstairs, and by the way, I'm going to offer tours of the building with this in mind immediately after the 10:30 service. So if you'd like to walk the facility with me, we'll meet here in the lobby area at about just after the 10:30 service, and we'll go for a walk and see all of this. When you go upstairs, though, the choir room is a large room on one side of the hall, and then there's a narrow corridor. That's the only way the geometry works, because Blaisdell is a narrow building. But by putting on this expansion, we'll have a 2-level atrium with a balcony. So that when you come into the lobby area, if you come in from the south, you'll be in a 2-story glass space. You'll hit the reception desk. You'll go up the stairs to classes. You can look down over it from above. And that gives us a total of 5 meeting rooms right off the main lobby. 2 on the 2nd floor, 3 on the 3rd floor, and the one in the middle is larger than room 308 is upstairs, to give you a sense of scale. The choir comes over here to their space on the 3rd floor of Cheney Building, which only requires minor renovations. This building was very well designed and very well built, so just with a small repurposing of that space, we can achieve a great deal of use out of it. Another word from a friend. This project shows mission. You've got to keep going. You've got to prepare the way for those who come after. And it's worthy of saying that when Reynolds sent in his quotation, he also sent in a pledge form wanting to be a part of this effort, which I think is such a tremendous, tremendous compliment and word of encouragement from our 3rd rector, for those of you who may not know him. So what is this all going to look like? It's boxes on paper right now. We are at the end right now of what's called the master planning phase. So the next phase is the design phase, and then the phase after that is the building phase. So what you're going to see are some renderings of what these spaces could look like, but not what they necessarily would look like. Does that make sense? So we're going to have some more time for conversation is what I'm underscoring. And particularly when I show you the picture of the lobby, know that the finishings there are something that we're going to talk about and make sure we get them just right. So what you're seeing is a what this could look like rendering, not a what it absolutely will look like rendering. The north door. You see they've copied the gable and the pillars from the church, put them onto Blaisdell in the middle. The door's already there. It draws together our absolutely elegant columbarium in a way that makes it central again to us. We have the symbol of baptism, the entry point of our faith, right in the middle with the font, and just a lot of connection in that space, but following the same lines and the same architecture that we have in our prominent church building. From the south, this is currently the parking area where the clergy park, but what we've done is tied together the new building here with Greenwood and Blaisdell and Cheney with this colonnade, which hopefully will finish that space off a little bit. Also gives us covered drop-off all the way around. You'll notice that in the images, it's sunny and beautiful on the north side of the building, but it's raining on the south side of the building. They were trying to emphasize certain points of each. It's a peculiar rainstorm that we've got. But again, you can enter from the north or from the south, depending on where you are, what your function is, where you're headed. And then here's the interior lobby. Again, the lobby finishings are something that we'll work on, but just take a look at what is possible in this space. Very, very different from what we have now. Very clear and welcoming. We asked the designers to try and mimic the finishings and quality of Cheney Parish Hall because this space just so speaks who we are, and they've done an element of that. There's more work to do, but you can definitely see how much of a game changer this will be for our ministries. One more word from a friend. I just let Ollie speak for himself on that one. So how do we get all this done? There's that expensive word keeps coming back up, doesn't it? Here's what we've got. We've got $1 million flat commitment to the shared projects with St. Mary's. They're providing 18, we're providing 1. We've got about $1 million of maintenance issues that we just have to deal with, and friends, we're going to be spending that money regardless, so it's probably best that we do it sensibly and with a plan and sort of move ourselves in the right direction. You've heard me talk about air conditioners failing. You might remember the Sunday that we worshiped in here last year because the air conditioning was out in the church. You'll remember the story of the leak a couple of weeks ago, and when I have to commend the staff again for preventing a lot more damage than was there by taking quick action. We have an issue with deferred maintenance on our mechanical systems, but we have a good roof, we got a good structure, we've got a good foundation, and that's all really good news. So we're estimating about $1 million for deferred maintenance. And then for the gutting out of Blaisdell and Greenwood and the minor renovations in the upstairs of Cheney, we're estimating about $5 million. These are not maximum numbers, the not to exceed numbers, nor are they pie in the sky. The architects with whom we're working got a contractor under their agreement, not our agreement, just to give an estimate, get us in the right range. The contractor included a contingency in his numbers, the architects put another contingency on it, and I rounded them up. So it's a good number. Not the maximum, not the minimum, it's a good number. And that's what we're working towards. With that in mind, the vestry has set a capital campaign goal for the campaign for Holy Communion of $7 million. And as Ben had said, we've been out talking to a small, very small number of our families to sort of get this going, get the feedback. Would this be something that you'd be willing to support? And many of those families have stepped up to make a commitment already. And I'm very, very proud to say that as of this morning, we have already raised $5.74 million. Which, for those of you keeping track at home, makes it already, by some measure, the largest campaign that Church of the Holy Communion has ever accomplished. And so we have so much to be proud of in that, but we are not there yet. We are not there yet. We are 82.1% of the way there, but I'll tell you, that last 17.9% is important. And it's not going to happen without each and every one of us stepping up and saying, this is our time and this is our moment. I'll tell you my own experience. I think I was the second or the third pledge in the campaign, and I gave a gift that was sizable, but wasn't going to challenge me. It was something that I knew I could do if I planned for, and I'd make it happen. And pledges, by the way, have 5 years to pay out. So I said, okay, I can do this, and it's all sounding right. And then I started sitting in your living rooms, and I saw people being really surprised by the numbers that I was asking them for, and then coming back and saying, I am so excited about this gift. In some cases, they gave the big number that we had sort of suggested. In some cases, they gave less than we had suggested. But I just had this feeling that everybody was truly thinking about it. And they were really saying, what's the most that I can do for my church? And I realized that I wasn't. And so I called Meg up and I said, change my pledge. I'm going to need all 5 years to pay it. I'll just tell you that right now. This is not gravy in the Sandy Webb household. But it's something I'm just happy about. One family that we went to, we asked them for substantially more than they had been planning to give, and they came back and they said, we are so excited. We had to figure out how to do it, but we are so excited. Letters are going out in the mail, I believe tomorrow, that will invite you to participate if you haven't already been invited. Volunteers are going to be calling you for an opportunity to come and talk to you about the project. What I'm going to ask and commend to you is please take the call. Please call them back. Please engage in conversation with them, and then really prayerfully consider what it is that God is asking you to do. The number may or may not match the number in the letter, but what I want for you to do is write on a piece of paper a number and a payment plan and your signature that excites you, and that you are going to be thrilled to bring that back in. The number is not relevant to the thrill, and it will not be relevant to my gratitude for it. I want everybody to be excited. I'm very excited. And I hope that you are too.